Boom, 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 baby. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having an amazing Saturday and holiday weekend. Yes, the holiday weekend. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades. And I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I am just, by now, ecstatically crazy about. You know the drill. Make sure you hop into the comments, say hey, where you tuning in from, so I can give you a shout out, the shout out that you so richly deserve. I was just talking to my guest. I keep forgetting it's the holiday weekend, so hopefully we got a great turnout today. I know it's like I said, the holiday weekend. A lot of people are away celebrating, having a good time with family. But I appreciate you that tune in and show up for sure, Mr. DeMio. As always, I appreciate you there, brother, tuning in and checking us out there. Hope you are having an amazing weekend. Mr. England, Mr. Dave, what's going on? How's it going? Warwick, Rhode Island. Awesome, 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 brother. Great content creator. Appreciate you tuning in as well there, Dave, for sure. Make sure that, you hop on over to the Facebook group community. Get plugged in, join us. We're having a lot of great conversations, sharing industry news. Facebook.com/group/The Color of Motion. Definitely want you to be a part of the family as well. So I don't want you to miss out on anything. So make sure you hop on over there and get plugged into the community for sure. Again, Facebook.com/group/The Color of Motion. What else? Big shout out for our sponsor for today's episode, Restream. They are a great multi-streaming platform that I use them to stream out to all my channels here. Definitely, if you are a live streamer or putting out content on multiple platforms at the same time, Restream is a great platform to check out. So make sure you hop over to restream.io, and the link will be in the show notes as well. But make sure you hop on over there, check them out. They have some great pricing for sure and a lot of great features as well. So big shout out and thank you, Restream, for always sponsoring this show. Like I said, so glad everybody's tuning in. This is kind of our little last episode before we take a little short hiatus there. So I am super excited about my next guest. Been looking forward to him since we connected earlier I think it was last year when we did a panel together. So definitely looking forward to this for sure. Appreciate you again. Like I said, Mr. England, long time brother, was on his show and he interviewed me. It was a blast. So definitely looking forward to being back on, for sure. Make sure as well, always like to hear from my viewers and everything. You can connect with me on my social channels here. I definitely want to hear from you as well. Let me know what you think. Like I said, during this little short hiatus, I'm going to be working on some different things, looking to port the show over to straight audio, get it up on Spotify, iTunes, some of the other audio platforms. So definitely want to hear from you, the viewers as well. Let me know what guests you might want me to try and get on, and anything like that. Let me know how I'm doing as well. I'm always wanting to hear feedback for sure. Like I said, we are here each and every week, every Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn. You can check us out in the Facebook group community and on the website for the show as well. But I do always kind of highly encourage everybody to join the YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, comment, give a thumbs up, all that good stuff. It definitely helps the algorithm as well. And there you can check out all the great guests that we've had on the show so far. So, for sure, subscribe. Definitely want you to, as I always say, be part of the community, part of the family. Again, the store is open as well. You can hop on over to the store, pick you up some TCOM swag. We have a lot of great gear there, some hoodies, shirts, mugs, constantly adding stuff to the store. So definitely hop on over to thecolorofmotion.net/swag, pick you up something. My goal is to see as many people as I can in some TCOM gear. Only thing I ask is that if you pick you up something, snap a picture of yourself so that I can share it on the show and on the channels as well. So definitely want to see you in some Color of Motion gear for sure. Oh man, what else, man? There's a lot been going on. Like I said, hopefully everybody is having a great holiday, gotten their start to the great holiday weekend off for sure. So definitely appreciate all of you again for tuning in and being a part of this show for sure. I think I got all the housekeeping stuff out the way. So I think without any further ado, we could probably kind of get this going right. Yes, we are back and ready to get this rocking and rolling. Like I said, I always say I want this to be an interactive show. So, and I'm trying to keep in mind again that it is the holiday weekend. So I know a lot of people are on the road and will probably check out the replay as well. But if you happen to be joining us, make sure you hop into the comments there and give us a hey. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. My next guest is a technologist, mentor, and coach with a passion for people and a love for technology. He believes technology is a tool that can be a catalyst for individual and organizational transformation. Along with having been a mixed reality technical specialist with Microsoft, he helps businesses and technical decision makers understand the possibilities of mixed reality and the metaverse on the Microsoft platform. As a digital advisor, he helps teams envision, prove value, and deploy mixed reality solutions at an enterprise scale. His mission is to use innovation for equity, creating opportunities for access and success for historically underrepresented populations. His life work is centered on empowering the next generation of leaders, dreamers, and doers to realize and nurture their purpose and potential. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Mr. Eric Brown Jr. Eric. Thank you so much, Eric, for coming on. Like I said, we had a blast connecting on the panel that we discussed on for Beyond Expectations. It was a great event with some great people, and I was so impressed with what you were doing because I do have along with animation and motion graphics, I also have a love for just technology, AR, VR, and the possibilities of what it can be used for in this society that we're in. So I so appreciate you, man, for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
No, thank you. I appreciate the time and I'm glad to be a part of the community.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I always kind of like to start where what was it that kind of sparked your initial interest in mixed reality? um I mean, I know have you always had a love for technology and that kind of grew into and kind of spanned into mixed reality. What was it that kind of got you going and made you recognize the possibility of what mixed reality could do?
No, that's a great question. I think I have had a passion for technology since I was in middle school. During that time, I would take things apart. I was always curious about how things would work. My dad bought me a remote control car. I ended up taking it apart and trying to put it back together. Uh, Also, with just computers in general, really enjoyed being able to take pieces from different computers to try to make a supercomputer at the time. And I think that curiosity and that love and passion for technology has gone with me throughout my journey.
Yeah,
And so I realized quickly that, this is a skill set that individuals valued. And so I was like, well, how can I use technology to help people? And I would say specifically around mixed reality, I had some friends in the gaming industry that focused on Oculus
mm,
VR in particular, and telling me how immersive it would be to game with kind of a more full rendered experience, leveraging a headset. And so I was aware of the technology at high level from a gaming perspective. But it wasn't until I had the opportunity to go to an innovation factory at work where they were kind of showing what is the horizon of technology in the future. And they were using gesture and speech and gaze to interact with software and different solutions. And it was then where they were able to have an image on the wall. And whenever they brought up their mobile phone, the image came alive and was able to give you a tutorial. And I was like, wow. Like when I saw that moment, I was like, this is something that like is going to change the world. And I was very inspired by it. But from a more strategic lens, at the time, the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, was new to his role, and he was doing a series of media tours. And they were asking questions about, what is his view on where Microsoft is going to invest in the next few years. And his answer was quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and mixed reality. And I
mm.
was like, well, hey, I love where this is going. The CEO of the company says this is something that's going to be a strategic initiative. And so I'm like, and this is an area that I think outside of my primary role, I was intentional about getting more hands-on experience with.
Gotcha, gotcha. But it, okay, I'll ask this right now. Um, so your degree, where did you get your degree, and is your degree in mixed reality or some space in technology?
No, that's a great question. I've taken a non-traditional pathway to the space that I'm in. One, mixed reality is an emerging technology. So even if there was a degree pathway, it probably didn't exist when I was an undergrad.
Yeah.
But that being said, I studied arts and humanities in undergrad, communications, philosophy, were things that I really had a passion for, and I still believe that being able to communicate ideas are key.
Yeah.
And so my foundation was within the arts. However, I made an emphasis on being what I called a technical communicator, someone that could take complex ideas and be able to explain it to business stakeholders, but also to novice or individuals that have no idea what that subject is about.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the area that I focused on and saying, well, Eric, you have a foundation in mass communications. Let your medium be technology and let the technology be an emphasis, but really focusing on how do you make it simple for individuals to see the value in it.
Yeah. 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 Um, and for those ones that may not know, and we're going to dive into this a little too, because I've had this ongoing conversation with my sisters and some of my family as well. But what is mixed reality in the metaverse? So for those ones that may not be aware of it, if you aren't, you've been kind of under a rock for a while, or maybe of that older generation that hasn't quite been able to wrap their head around what it is.
No, happy to explain. And I think it is important to start with definitions. And depending on who you talk to, you may get a different definition. And so I'll give you mine. Mixed reality is the blending of the physical and the digital. And so right now we are having a conversation. I'm in the physical world. I'm able to have the physical things around me. However, for everything that's physical, on a computer generated system, you can create a digital representation of anything, a person, place, or thing.
Yeah.
So, digital representation of a person could be an avatar. A digital representation of a mall. You can make a digital representation of any particular product. And so, what mixed reality as a use case really is focused on enterprises being able to say, well, how can I leverage digital assets that I have to solve a problem? An example is something called a digital twin. So I'm here in my room.
Yeah.
I'm able to, have different lights and different technologies in this space. But if there were sensors on all these different things, I can make a digital representation and say, well, here's what the lights are on in my physical space, but also in a digital representation of this room,
Yeah.
and be able to kind of see simulations, etc. But in short, the way I like to describe kind of immersive technologies, kind of as an umbrella, there's something called extended realities.
Yeah.
Some people claim it as XR or just spelled out extended realities, and it kind of encompasses several different types of technologies. So, on one end of the spectrum, you have something called augmented reality. An example of augmented reality is an app called Pokemon Go. It's very
Yeah.
popular. You look through your phone. When you look through that screen, you're able to see a digital object. On the other end of the spectrum is virtual reality, where a computer generated scene or experience was built. And now, with the VR headset, you're able to be fully immersed in this digital space that was created.
Yeah.
Lots of creativity. Now, in the middle is what I kind of described as that mixed reality, where you're able to be present, has transparency and lenses so you can see the physical world.
Yeah.
But in context of those physical items, you're able to have an overlay of digital assets and tools to be able to help you solve a particular problem. So it allows you to be heads up, hands free, but also get an overlay of digital information that could be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great explanation. And there's so much to really kind of unpack here, because we're at this age now. AI is storming forward, and you're getting a lot of people that are on kind of one side or the other as far as just the impact of what technology is kind of doing. Now, I always kind of consider myself kind of on the cusp. Guess I'm a fall into the baby boomer age, where I I remember before the cell phone, before computers and all of that kind of stuff, and you didn't have distractions or the just the bombardment of information as much. And if
Hmm.
it was you had to wait for it, like the mail. So now, but I always love technology, and I know that's the nature of just life moving forward. Technology is gonna progress. Do you find kind of this crossroads of where people are feeling or having this kind of discussion of feeling disconnected from each other because of all these devices, all these things, all this technology that we're going through?
No, I think that's a great question. There's different stances on it. I think that technology is ultimately, in my opinion, a tool. It's just an enabler to be able to have more efficiencies, but also sometimes bring people closer together. If you think back, the pandemic, the last few years, just based on health and precautions, you weren't able to go to certain places or
Yeah,
be able to see different experiences. And so, how were you able to feel connected? Individuals were able to hop on calls like the ones we're on right now,
yeah,
to be able to get things done, but also like to be able to do inspections or to be able to teach and learn. You have to now rely on technology in a way that you weren't able to in the past. And so it depends on the use case. I think the goal is usually to leverage technology as a medium to get
yeah,
closer. However, at the same time, it can also be a distraction. And so it's really having moderation in how you use it, but also be intentional about, all right, as you think about implementing technology or using a particular tool to say, is this something that's helping me or is this
yeah,
something that's kind of getting me away from my goal? And at the end of the day, my opinion is it's about being able to empower and connect people.
yeah. Now, have you ever seen? Because I've had this discussion, with a few people, um, and especially kind of my manager, and we were kind of specifically talking about AR and him thinking that it was more kind of gimmicky
Hmm.
and just I want to say nichey for lack of a better word to find. But I was saying, I think if you think hard enough on how you could practically use it to benefit you, it's a great thing. Have you ever come across a case where you couldn't think of how you could use AR, VR, mixed reality in a beneficial way for a company or for a business?
Um, yeah, I think I had some scenarios where, it is an amazing tool, but it's not like a hammer and nail situation where that's the answer for everything.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that I've been able to tell clients that, hey, you know what, this is something that you guys are evaluating. It's definitely very exciting. But if you don't have a clear problem that you're trying to solve that it uniquely solves for, it may not necessarily be the thing that you want to maybe focus on. And so
yeah,
I've had that honest conversation to say that, it's definitely brings unique value, but you have to be clear about what that alignment looks like. But
yeah,
I'll give an example. For me, I'm geographically challenged, and I go to different cities, towns, what have you, and I use GPS like religiously. But sometimes, even with the GPS, I may miss the wrong turn, or as I'm walking, maybe not necessarily have the orientation that I need.
yeah,
But now with a lot of map apps, they have kind of a mixed reality, augmented reality experience where leveraging the camera on your phone, when you look around, it's able to map itself in space and time and know that, okay, I was able to recognize this building to your right. Now I know where you are. I can tell you what's north, south, east, west, and I can kind of give you a wayfinder, step by step instructions to your destination, while
yeah,
also showing you the 3D models of here are the various buildings that you're going on this road. And so I know that, oh, I looked to my left, that's the same building that's there. I know where I'm at. The map knows where I'm at,
yeah,
and I'm actually able to have that context. And so that's a practical way that I use AR on a daily basis of saying that, yes, I see the GPS, but I'm also able to leverage that camera face interface to be
yeah,
able to have a more anchoring to the real world.
yeah. No, I've seen some amazing uses, and I think the businesses and brands that, like you said, really figure out a way that it really helps their end user um, experience their product or business. As far as AR, I think what was it? IKEA uses it
Hmm.
very well. and they use
Yeah.
it to their benefit so that it really is a beneficial tool for the end user so they don't have to waste time seeing what their piece of furniture or whatever furniture they're going to buy is going to look like in their place, as a whole. As a teaching tool, I love what VR has the capability of doing. Just there's one example of a company, they built like experiences. They were a motion graphics animation studio, but they were doing uh, kind of a VR experience, almost gamified for oil
Hmm.
and gas to train oil rig workers where to go, what to do in an event of an explosion. And it's such an immersive experience that can really transform you. I'm not sure if it was on the panel or whether, no, I think I met them at a networking event and they use VR for retirement homes to
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
to people to really experience a different location. So as a tool, like I said, I think it's such a great thing and has such potential of what it can do to really help um, this society as a whole, us connect with each other. I'm sure you talk with a lot of schools. What are the kind of things that you're excited about when you talk to students? And what are some of the feedback that you kind of get that they're looking to even get more out of from this technology? um, Kids nowadays are born, they know how to work it. They come out with this kind of sense of what it can do. What are you kind of getting from students that you talk to about this industry and about the technology that's just rapidly coming at us?
Yeah, when I think about kind of the education industry and working with students in particular, the thing that's top of mind for students is engagement. They were like, "Well, is it interesting? Am I able to be entertained in the process?" I don't. If it's a subject that for them is boring, if I'm able to have an immersive interaction with it, I may be able to have a different perspective, but I
Hmm.
also may be more intrigued to learn more about the subject. So, for example, when it comes to nursing or anatomy and physiology, being able to look at the skeleton in a 2D book versus looking at a skeleton in 3D from all the various angles, it adds for kind of a more detailed conversation, but
Yeah.
also it enables students to see from different perspectives that they couldn't before. But also, when it comes to the way one expresses themselves, typically in the classroom setting, you either have to write something, you may have to do an oral presentation, but to be able to say, hey, can my output be a mixed reality experience, or can I have an AR experience to be able to explain an idea that I have? And so it gives students more agency on the way that they can express what they know or understand in a way that's more realistic. And so when we think about the space as a whole, computing, we've been using mouse and keyboard for a very long time,
Yeah.
and so being able from an accessibility standpoint say, how can I interact with computers the way I interact with everyday objects? So how I can use gesture, how can I use my voice, where I'm looking to be able to interact versus having to modify to this mouse and keyboard or go back to the standard textbook. And so students love the engagement and activity and allows them to look at problems from different perspectives. Teachers think about, well, are the students one engaged, but also are they able to recall and have a deeper understanding of the information if I showcase it in this format?
Yeah.
And then finally, I think being able to say, well, how quickly can I feel comfortable being able to do a particular task, or be able to build a skill? And
Yeah.
so a lot of simulation and training scenarios, even within the classroom, are leveraging
Yeah.
extended reality holistically.
And is that what you're finding, that people are able to kind of retain the information much more than if they read it in a book or, like I said, some type of textbook or something like that? Because I think that was kind of the I would think that would be the biggest selling point in even in the example of the oil rig training that I just mentioned. they're
Hmm.
much more likely to remember the thing because they immersively went through the experience of where they need to go and the things that they need to do. Do you find that that's kind of the case? It's a much the information that you receive is much more retainable than say the traditional reading, like I said, reading it from a book or a manual or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the value propositions for the technology. I would say that each customer that I've worked with, they did their own studies or being able to say, all right, how do we quantify how impactful this is? But that's one of the things within EDU they've been measuring to say, all right, students that didn't leverage this technology versus leverage it, maybe later down the road throughout the semester are they able to recall, or what were their scores before and after. And so I would say that it varies as far as each organization and how they measure it, but holistically it definitely has a more engaging experience that also can help with recall. So for example, if you're able to go through a drill of what the safety precautions are
Yeah,
in a safe and controlled environment, if you have the opportunity to go through that same building physically, if you've done it virtually, you definitely have like, hey, I've actually done this before. I've seen this button before. I kind of know what happens when I press that button because I pressed it virtually or
yeah,
what have you. And so it's definitely helpful, but also able to help scale because everyone's not able to go to those physical assets,
yeah.
or just based on the nature of the procedure, it is maybe dangerous to do physically. And so being able to do it virtually gives them that level of muscle memory without having to be in the dangerous situations.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Again, everybody just jumping in and tuning in. We're having an amazing conversation with my friend Eric Brown Jr., extended reality technologist. We're talking all things mixed reality, AR, VR. So if you definitely have questions, make sure you jump in. Mr. Dave, appreciate it. Yeah, it is cool. Like I said, I think um, it's for me, I try and be careful because it's easy to kind of get lost in. I mean, if you're
Mhm.
doing it for a long time, which, like you were mentioning, you kind of have to kind of monitor how much you do. It's easy to get lost, but I see the potential, especially in education, and especially in our community, because we tend to kind of stay within our own kind of box of a neighborhood of what we experience. And I think this gives kids, not only all kids, not only, kids of color but all kids, I think it gives them, it has the potential to really give them a world view of just, okay, we may not be able to go over to Africa, we may not be able to go over to Europe or other locations, but we can do something just as good as far as creating an immersive experience of them actually being in, South Africa or Nairobi, or going through a period in time even, and having them experience it. Um, is that something that you kind of, you know, thought about as far as, the potential of what it could have for just education and connection and communication?
Yeah, it's definitely a tool and a medium to connect different cultures. I think today on YouTube or just with content creation in general, now being able to have 3D, whether it's 360 camera, walk through an experience and then have a student or someone else relive that experience. So whether it's how do you go through the airport in a different in a different country to
Yeah,
go from the airport to your destination, or be able to your point go back in time. I think it's easier and it's cheaper to be able to create an immersive experience versus actually fly those students out there. And so it also can spark curiosity to say, you know what, that's the actual place I want to do an internship, or I would love to be able to get exposure to that in life, because I feel like when I went through it virtually, it was really engaging. I was able to see all the different angles and the sounds of that location. And so I think as far as exposure, it's definitely an opportunity to help students see different career pathways in a hands-on aspect,
yeah,
be able to communicate in different ways. I think ultimately it's exciting platform, but you have to be intentional about how you leverage it. So just being able to throw the headset on itself is not the answer. So being able to have a curriculum, being able to have mentors, and I think that the mixed reality experience is something that's supplementary to be able to help with that. But I believe that organizations, schools in particular, that leverage it, it's just supposed to tie into the curriculum and be able to give a different perspective. But it's not the answer unto itself.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how do you see? Because like I had mentioned earlier, AI is the big buzzword now. How do you see AI, and would you consider this AI, this mixed reality, VR, AR? Do you consider that AI, or and if not, how do you see AI and the things that you're starting to see done with AI being tied to mixed reality and being used with mixed reality?
Yeah, just similar to mixed reality and metaverse, these are subjects or words that have multiple definitions. I would say AI at a high level is involved in lots of aspects of augmented virtual reality, mixed reality, etc. Thinking thoughtfully about like being able to have the sensors on a camera, be able to understand where you are in space and time, all those algorithms to be able to make those experiences real, leverage different types of artificial intelligence. And so I think just by nature of just having those sensors, these headsets, they're going to leverage some form of AI to be able to make it real. But on another note, when we think about creating content for these mediums, whether it's um, for virtual reality or augmented reality, oftentimes, you would have to, it's a really detailed skill set to be able to create spatial sound, to be able to create a 3D representation of a person, place, or thing.
Yeah,
And that took a long time and dedication, illustration to do. Now, leveraging AI, just using prompts, you can say, I want to create a room this size with these items in it, and I want to have this level of animation. And that scene can be created within several minutes or a few or maybe an hour or so versus before it would take lots of dedication and time to make that reality. So I think that artificial intelligence in general is being able to help democratize the creation process of these experiences where it would take you a lot of time to develop skills to build these experiences. Now
yeah.
leveraging different forms of AI, it makes the process easier for students and practitioners.
Got you. Now, you mentioned, or I mentioned in your bio that creating opportunities and access and success for historically underrepresented populations, people of color, disadvantaged areas. How do you feel like um, mixed reality, this industry is going to make an impact in that area, or for people of color and for us disadvantaged areas?
Yeah, I think that the technology itself has so many different use cases to empower the community. However, I think the challenge is the first piece is being able to have exposure and access. I think that right now there definitely is a discrepancy as far as what students have access to virtual reality, mixed reality headsets. I think most individuals have access to a phone,
Yeah.
so they're able to experience some things. But in regards to experiences that need specialized hardware, whether it's headsets or even desktop computers, laptop computers that can run this software, is specialized. And so I think that's an area offhand where a lot of students don't get exposure just by the nature of what's necessary to get started. That being said, there's definitely lots of organizations, grants, nonprofits, and schools that actually have this equipment available to students. But holistically, I think this is an area that, in order for all communities to be able to realize the value, it has to be something that's available, whether it's through a public library or through
Mm,
the school system, or even be able to be at a price point where your average consumer can buy the device. Right now, it varies, but in general, the devices do cost quite a bit. And so
yeah.
I'm an advocate of organizations being able to sponsor and provide access and exposure to students. But I think as an industry, the devices and experiences have to come to a price point that is accessible for all.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. And you were saying about the equipment, the headsets or and the visors. Where do you see kind of the technology moving forward? But I guess early on in VR, it was, you almost seemed tethered to the computer. Now you're starting to see, glasses. Like you said, everybody's got a phone basically and can experience an AR experience. Where where do you see it, the future of mixed reality going as far as the technology?
Yeah, I think one of the things with the technology that is necessary is being able to have a form factor that's comfortable. I remember some of the first iterations of the devices, they're always very large and uncomfortable. And so I think ergonomics is something that is key to say, is this something that's going to be comfortable for the average user to wear, different hairstyles, etc. And so
Yeah.
I think holistically, that's one of the factors. Another piece that, from a technology standpoint, is connectivity. A lot of these scenarios are really extremely bandwidth intensive. Latency is also a concern when streaming high fidelity content, different polygons, etc. And so I think that the in order to get mass adoption, it has to be one at a price point that's really affordable, has to be comfortable to wear, and it's not intrusive when you have it on. But also from the back end, the streaming technology and just connectivity in general has to be at a place where you can have a great experience without having to have a specialized setup.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
So it's a
know
work in
that's,
progress.
yeah, and definitely is something that's gonna have to get better over time, because like you were saying, just and I've had this kind of issue, or not issue, but conversation, especially in countries over like or continents like Africa, where they have an issue with power. The technology may not be the same as it is here, that type of thing. So if you're going to have kind of the experience of using mixed reality, it has to be kind of this global thing that, like you said, people have access to the same things. um Moving forward, do you see that, what's the word I want to use, do you see it almost as to getting to the point of, say, like what you may see on a sci-fi movie like Minority Report, where you're scanning your eye, and like I said, I've seen conversations where he talk about an eye like a contact lens that does that. I mean, obviously they're working on it and
Mhm.
trying to get to that point, but do you see that as another alternative, or kind of where we're kind of headed to where, like I said, people can just touch their wrist and see a watch and get their information and that type of stuff?
Yeah, I think about often, Star Wars and Star Trek. Some of the technology there, it's hidden. So you're able to just go in a room and things change based on your
Yeah.
profile. You're able just to press a button, beam me up,
Oh, I would
Scotty.
love
You
all
know,
of that.
Yeah, so how about, and so I think that the goal is to make it things simpler and more natural. I think
Yeah.
the word that I would love to describe it is human computer interaction needs to be seamless, so that the technology is really in the background and you're just being able to have different experiences happen seamlessly. And so definitely getting things smaller, and being able to interact naturally. I saw a TED talk recently where there was a sensor on the pocket. It was able to make phone calls, looking at your hand, etc. And so, I guess getting to a place where we move away from screens, and have a more personalized experience leveraging AI, but having our computers sense things around us the way we do naturally, and being able to adopt and kind of interact with the various spaces naturally on our behalf is something that is a work in progress in the vision. But every few years, we are able to make things smaller and more efficient. And so I think we're in the beginning stages now. But the goal is to get away from screens and to make things more natural for humans.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, what's been kind of and I always like to ask all my guests this, what's been, the best piece of advice that you've been given that's really helped you, um, along on your journey?
Oh man, I've received a lot of advice, but I would say to take risk and do it afraid is probably the best advice I've received, and it's one that I still use and reflect back on. Is that you can have the greatest idea, you can be in the coolest spaces, but if you're afraid to take the risk and don't have courage to do it afraid, that could be paralyzing. And even in my
Yeah,
own journey, I've experienced that. And so I think that it's important to take a risk, to believe in yourself, and to do it even when you're uncomfortable, because that's the kind of the environment that can lead to growth.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely for sure. Let's see if I can play this explosion here. I don't know if I can. Uh, as far as technology, having technological issues there. Have you come across, or what type of pushbacks, if any, have you come across from organizations, businesses, when you're talking about the use cases or whether or not, they could use it for their business?
Yeah, I think each organization, different industries have things that are concerning for them. I would say holistically in technology, data and data privacy and security are always things that are top of mind for organizations to say, all right, if I'm interacting with different individuals, do I know who they are? Are they who I believe they are? Any data that's shared within the conversations, whether it's 3D content, etc., is that secure? And being able to make sure that from a privacy standpoint, those are closed conversations or what have you as it comes to the metaverse or public spaces as far as interacting. So companies oftentimes say we're excited about the technology, but also want to make sure that we have levels of control of the data and who's accessing it, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah. Now, is that a concern that concerns you when, or think about, or the possibility when you're talking about mixed reality and augmented reality and virtual reality, just access or security issues? Is that something you know concerns you, or is that you feel is still needs to be worked at?
No, that's a great question. I think that, at the rate of change, security, compliance are things that we have to always kind of keep top of mind. I think that there are solutions out there that meet the requirements of different customers at different levels today. And so it's feasible. But I believe that as a society, we're used to the norms of interacting in person, even the norms of interacting in a maybe 2D video conference call like the one we're in right here. But as far as the norms, privacy, security around 3D worlds and interactions, there are a lot of things that are unknown because it hasn't necessarily been a standard norm. And so I think that although we are doing the best we can at this current state to be able to create the policies around making sure things are secure, what have you, I think that as things move on, we have to continue to be diligent about making sure that we have the frameworks in place so that students, in particular children, are able to be interacting with people who are their age, or make sure that the content that's being shared is appropriate for them, what have you. And so, my concern is that as these new platforms and opportunities present itself, that those details aren't necessarily always thought through, and there can be some challenges there as far as the safety and the privacy of the users. And so, I think that it's always a question worth asking and getting clarification on because every solution is built differently. I wouldn't say it's something that keeps me up at night, but at the same
Yeah,
time, I think that it's definitely as I embark on advising different organizations and being able to be a part of the creation process of solutions, that those are things that I definitely believe are foundational.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And do you come across any big misconceptions that people may have when it comes to mixed reality, or things um that they may have thought that just wasn't correct or wasn't true?
Yeah, I think overall, typically when people think about extended realities as an umbrella, they're like, "Oh, it's a game." And although there are some games built on on the platform, I think that it's also a tool for education. Could be a tool for business continuity, as well as for creativity. And so I think it's really clear to understand like what is your purpose for using it,
Hmm.
and being able to make sure those use cases align to value. And so, offhand, individuals that haven't made that correlation of value or thought about the use case clearly, they just say, "Oh, it's a game, and it's just
Yeah,
something for entertainment, but not necessarily something for productivity or for business impact." And I think that it's important to really evaluate it with an open mind, but also understanding what you're trying to solve for up front in order to realize that value. So the misconception is often that it's just for fun, it's frivolous, but the reality is that enterprises today are leveraging it, realizing value across industries.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you think of it that way, but do, do you feel like that is kind of a bad thing that, like I said, games are, people think of it that immediately think games are, like I said, it doesn't have something of value, or it's just something for fun. I mean, has the game industry in some kind of way pushed the technology forward, moving it into that?
No, I think that, even today, a lot of the business or enterprise applications leverage gaming engines to be able to create their solutions. And so the gaming industry holistically have led the way in being able to create these experiences. And their technology stack and their processes are still deeply involved in creating enterprise solutions. I think ultimately it is a thing about education and exposure,
Yeah,
for those to see, like, hey, here's how it's valuable. So I think that in this season, kind of as it's still emerging, as many people can get exposure, be able to put a headset on, or be able to go through a scenario where they're able to have the aha moment. Because just talking about it conceptually, sometimes seeing the values, like, "Oh, I don't really get it." But when you put it on, like, wow, I was able to understand how to put this step by step process together, or I was able to see what it was like to walk the streets of Rome, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, wow, this is super powerful. But
yeah,
until you put that and have that exposure, sometimes it's hard to see the value.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Again, everybody that's just tuning in, um, please let me know if we are still going here. I'm kind of sensing a little technical glitch on my end uh, with the show, so I may, which I always hate doing, I may have to restart. So let me see if I can get it going here. And if I do cut off, Eric, uh, give me a minute to have to log back in, because it looks like I am hanging up for some reason. Uh, and I'm not sure if let me see if it's still, let me jump over to YouTube and see if it's still going. And I know uh, stream, or not StreamYard, but I know Ecamm's hanging up on me here. But I want to make sure before I restart, that I'm not broadcasting. Okay, it's still broadcasting, but I may, hopefully it'll can get through this here. I always say what happens live, you got to roll with it.
It is
And
all good.
I always kind of tend to do that. Yeah, it's still streaming, but you know how you get that. I don't know if you ever had it. You been on a Mac, that spinning wheel
Hmm.
lets me know that Ecamm is hanging up on me here, and I know I'm not able to jump over or use any of my scenes because it's definitely hanging up, but it is still going out live. Uh, what I am gonna do is I am gonna restart Ecamm because I won't be able to get through the rest of the scenes or anything like that because Ecamm is frozen, even though it's still going live. So please, we're I'm having technical difficulties with Ecamm, so I'm gonna restart the live again. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna restart it again. Eric, give me a minute to jump back on before you log back in. But I'm going to restart or I'm going to quit out of Ecamm, which is going to end the broadcast. Uh, Viewers, hang with me while I restart Ecamm here and get myself back going and live again. And I may wondering if it's going to reconnect to the platforms. But let's try this and let's see. So I'm going to restart Ecamm again. I hate to do that, but I got really no choice. And Eric, log back in. I'm going to message you on LinkedIn when Ecamm restarts and you can log back in, okay?
Sounds
Into the
good.
green room. So, again, everybody that's just jumping in, we've been having a great conversation with my friend Eric here, but I've come across a little technical difficulty with Ecamm, and I'm going to have to restart Ecamm, which is going to cut off the broadcast temporarily. Give me a minute to restart the show again, and Eric will log back in. So